What just happened?
How's it going, Big Ten football fans? This is Mackenzie with Team Ravelry, and it wouldn't be a college football offseason if we didn't have rumors about where Jim Harbaugh was going to be coaching the following season. We know that Jim Harbaugh took a 2-hour virtual interview with the Denver Broncos a couple days ago. No word yet on what the Denver Broncos are thinking about that. I know at one point he was on the top of their short list, which is probably a little concerning for Michigan fans. Not probably. It is concerning for Michigan fans considering how successful Michigan has been these last 2 years with the back-to-back CFP appearances, couple of wins over Ohio State, and let's not forget, back-to-back Big Ten champions. But an interesting report has come out. This is from Sports Illustrated in terms of what's going on behind the scenes. There have been some people saying that Jim Harbaugh probably feels like he should be paid a little bit better considering the recent success of the program, and I'm inclined to agree. But we got a little bit of drama behind the scenes. So this is from Sports Illustrated by Christopher Breiler. Sorry, Christopher, if I messed that up. Just in, report surfaces about Harbaugh-Michigan contract negotiations. It sounds like Michigan head football coach Jim Harbaugh was close to signing a new deal, but had a slight change of heart before putting pen to paper. Another day, another layer to the Jim Harbaugh NFL saga. Yeah, no kidding. According to a report that surfaced Wednesday, that was yesterday at the time of this recording, Harbaugh is set to sign a contract extension with Michigan this week that would have made him one of the highest paid coaches in the Big Ten Conference. One of the highest paid coaches? He's got 2 Big Ten championships back to back. And he's got a roster coming back that very much suggests, along with the 2023 schedule, that they can definitely repeat. So they can get that three-peat. They can have 3 wins over Ohio State. They can have 3 Big Ten championships. Why wouldn't he be the highest paid coach in the Big Ten? That's kind of ridiculous, honestly, and I have a feeling I know why that's happening. For some reason, things fell through, although it's not entirely clear what went wrong. What is clear is that there does seem to be a disconnect between Harbaugh and athletic director Warde Manual. That's exactly what I thought was going on. One that is resulting in the process becoming more lengthy and difficult than necessary. Here are a few excerpts from the report. Pre-offer, first offer, second offer. So let's just kind of go through this real quick. I'm kind of learning on the spot here. I don't know a ton about coaching contracts. I just know, the basics, base salary, incentives, and then buyout and stuff like that. So pre-offer, post-Ohio State communications indicated to Jim that he would be the highest paid coach in the Big Ten, have the largest assistant pool salary, lots of NIL support, and support from university for the program. So basically, they were setting Jim Harbaugh up with a pretty amazing contract here. Michigan's NIL has been, let's say, lacking, but I like the philosophy behind it. It's basically been when you come here, you're not just going to get paid to come here. You're not going to be paid to play. You have to earn it. And I really like that. And I think a lot of players are going to like that because it ends up setting them up for future success. They're playing more the long game than they are just paying players to come in and hoping that they stay. They're telling players, look, this is what you're going to get here. You got to get here. You got to put in the work and you've got to earn it. We're not just going to give it to you. And I honestly think that speaks to a lot of football players these days, which is awesome. First offer, getting to the contract. The first contract offer to Jim was a raise in base salary, but not high enough to meet Big Ten peers and did not increase assistant coach salary pool and included a large buyout. Okay, so what this says is, Jim was going to get a raise, but it wasn't going to be on par with other Big Ten coaches. It's not going to increase the assistant coach salary pool, which means that his assistant coaches, which have been a huge part of Michigan's success over these last 2 seasons, again, back-to-back CFP appearances, a undefeated season this year, back-to-back Big Ten championships, like those assistant coaches were just as much a part of that as Jim Harbaugh was. And Jim's going to get a raise, but they're not going to get any larger of an assistant coach salary pool. I don't know if that means that they don't get a raise in base salary or if that means that they do get a raise in base salary, but the entirety of the pool to maybe hire on new coaches or offer incentives or something like that to keep their coaches is going to raise. I'm not entirely sure, but I know either way, they're deserving of something that they're not getting out of this first offer. The notice of allegations from the NCAA were well known, but after the athletic director was told they were coming anytime, Warde Manual changed his tune and offered Harbaugh that contract. Harbaugh balked at it and felt he wasn't wanted by everyone at the university like he was in 2015. He also doubted the university's support of him, specifically the athletic director. As a result, he hired an agent and started communicating with the NFL as a backup. And that's just smart business. Okay, that's just being a smart businessman. All right. I get it. If most of us saw the kind of money that Harbaugh was making right now, we'd probably be like pretty happy. But he's a football coach, and he's a football coach at one of the best universities to ever do it. And he's won back-to-back Big Ten titles. The first back-to-back, I think, since the 90s, late 90s, and then the first Big Ten title period since 2004. So this is the best level of success that Michigan has seen in roughly 2 decades, and that's huge. Some stats actually say ever. Going back to like the Fielding Yost era with the point-a-minute teams back in the early 1900s. Those were, if you get a chance to read about those teams, those were amazing teams. But this level of success definitely puts Harbaugh in the, if not the top tier, if not the absolute best, then certainly in the top tier of Big Ten coaches. And I'm looking at other coaches, like I think Ohio State was the trendsetter in the Big Ten. Harbaugh's beaten them twice. And both games were not exactly close, at least as far as the final score was concerned. I understand that there's a difference between play on the field and what the final score is, but the final score was not close. In the end, that's what matters. And that's what happened is Harbaugh blew them out twice. So, and one of those was in Columbus for the first time since 2000 or 2002. I can't remember specifically. So it just makes good business sense for Harbaugh to start communicating with the NFL because there's clearly interest from the UNFL, from the NFL in him. So that's just good business sense for him. The fact that he feels like he wasn't wanted is kind of interesting, specifically because that falls on Warde Manual. So what is Warde Manual doing to make Harbaugh feel like he's not wanted? Warde Manual should be giving Harbaugh a blank check, frankly. A blank check for his own salary, a blank check for his assistant coaches, because if we lose, I'll just throw out Sharon Moore is a great coach. If we lose him, if we lose Mike Hart, those position groups take hits. Mike Hart especially. The running backs have been dominant these past 2 years, and they're pretty much always dominant under Jim, but Mike Hart has really taken them to a whole new level, and that's amazing. We cannot lose Mike Hart. A lot of people are looking at him like maybe he'd be a future head coach further down the line as he gets more development, and if Harbaugh were to leave, in the future. Not now, in the future. The details of the first contract were about $8.1 million base with incentives that could get him up to $11 million. Assistant coach pool was $7.1 million with incentives, making it close to $8.1 million. Buyout for coach was around $9 million. Now, I'm gonna admit I don't really know if this is a lot, except I could tell you that Mel Tucker is making $100 million over 10 years. I want to say it's something pretty basic like that. So about $9 to $10 million a year. And he doesn't have a Big Ten championship. And in fact, he's got 2 losing seasons. He's only had 1 season that was a winning season. Granted, it was a great season. They definitely deserve a lot of credit for that. I think he deserves a lot of credit for really getting Kenneth Walker. It was a great pick out of the transfer portal, so great job there. Definitely deserves a lot of credit for that. But he makes more than Harbaugh right now, and that doesn't make any sense. If I'm not mistaken, from what I remember of Ryan Day's contract, he also makes more than Harbaugh right now. And that, frankly, doesn't make any sense considering these last couple of seasons have been a bit of a failure. If you're a Buckeye fan, you're not happy. Buyout for coach was around $9 million. Now, I think this is considered kind of high, but if I'm not mistaken, Scott Frost's buyout at Nebraska was $13 million at the time of his dismissal, and if they had waited a month, it would have gone down to something like $7 or $8 million. I think those were the right numbers. So to me, $9 million says we kind of want to keep you, but also like we're not going to give you a ton of money to keep you, and if anyone wants, so we're gonna make the buyout big enough that no one really wants to pay it, but we're not going to give you enough salary that you're going to be okay with a buyout that no one really wants to pay. Now, it's clear at this point that somebody might pay it because the NFL, I don't know that they're really going to be that upset with $9 million when I think their coaches are a little bit higher than that, if I'm not mistaken. I really have no idea how NFL coaching contracts work, but we'll just go with it for right now. Second offer. Now, time has passed, and President Ono, I believe his name is Santa Ono, really, really enjoy following him on Twitter. He says some awesome things. And President Ono gets involved. Only then does Warde get moving more. So Warde had to be kind of pushed by President Ono. New offer was made with a lower buyout, $5 million. So that's a little bit better for Jim because if anything goes wrong, he can get out pretty easily. Base around $9.5 million. It's better. I don't think it's enough. Incentives getting him to $12 or $13 million. Okay. All right. An increased assistant pool salary of around $7.7 million. And that is about $600,000 more than the first offer. So getting close, and incentives getting close to $9 million, so you've got a couple million more. Ono personally gave Jim support against the NCAA. That's huge. That is huge. Okay, so this new president, Santa Ono, just a quick word on him. He is awesome. He has fully supported NIL. He has fully supported Jim Harbaugh. He has fully supported the fact that football and sports, they're the front porch to the university, and that's just how it is. A lot of the ways that universities get their names out there is by these games. Like you hear of them, it's almost kind of a brand awareness sort of a thing. So football is definitely the front porch of the university, and you have to you need to invest in that. Especially because Michigan football makes a ton of money, and they need that money. Things were trending in the right direction, and contract was going to be signed. Oh, and another thing is that the prior Michigan president, Mark Schlissel, really was not supportive of Michigan athletics pretty much at all. Like he was very much against playing in 2020. Again, politics aside, the money, the business decision, it was a better business decision to play with those safety parameters. But Mark Schlissel wants to turn Michigan into more of a Harvard or a Princeton than a sports school. And it's not like Michigan is a sports school. They kind of have the best of both worlds there, where Michigan is a really good sports school, but also a really good academic school. But in general, his leadership was just very much lacking in that regard. Things were trending in the right direction, and the contract was going to be signed, but lack of support from Warde and his antics caused Harbaugh to pause and look at Plan B just in case. And that's just good sense right there, because if your boss isn't going to support you, it doesn't matter if his boss supports you. What matters is whether or not your immediate boss, who can fire you, who has power over that, whether or not he supports you. So that's where things reportedly stand with Harbaugh and Michigan. Overall, it appears as though he's fine with the latest contract offer, but still wants more support when it comes to pending NCAA violations, NIL, and more. And it sounds like President Santa Ono is really going to pick up where that is lacking right now, especially with Warde Manual. So it's going to be interesting to see what is going to happen with Santa Ono and Warde Manual. We got one last paragraph here I just want to look at real quick. Of course, there is the fact that Harbaugh is still under his current contract with Michigan. Technically speaking, Warde Manual isn't under any obligation to change the terms of the 5-year deal that Harbaugh had already signed last year, even if it means potentially losing him to the NFL. And that would be a terrible decision for Warde Manual. Okay, terrible. Because the last thing that this team needs right now is to be set back a couple of years, because the head coach that finally built this team into a championship-winning football team goes off to the NFL. They cannot sustain... Well, okay, I shouldn't say cannot, but they have a great opportunity to sustain some success here and then put somebody in Harbaugh's wing that is specifically designated, hey, we're building this guy up so that he can then eventually take over, so that there is consistency in the transition there. That's going to be huge for recruiting. That's going to be huge for the boosters. That's going to be huge for the fans and the program as a whole. And that's exactly what Ohio State did. Even if Ryan Day has lost to Jim Harbaugh twice in a row now, you can't say that they're not a successful program, because they're still winning 10 and 11 games a year. And it's because of that consistency. He was basically the Urban Meyer disciple that they specifically planted as a seed and grew him. That's a weird analogy, but you get it. Whatever. Anyway, point being is that Warde Manual needs to get his stuff together. Hopefully President Santa Ono is going to help in that regard. Not entirely sure, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. If you have any thoughts on this, go ahead and leave a comment down there in the comment section. I do read them all because we don't get a ton because we're young, so whatever. Also, give this video a like, hit the notification bell, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next video.
What just happened?